The crystal chandeliers of the Riverside Manor sparkled above 300 wedding guests, all dressed in their finest attire. I stood near the back of the reception hall in my plain navy suit, the only one I owned, watching my older brother Michael prepare for his best man speech. His bride, Christina, sat beside him at the head table, her wedding dress probably costing more than most people's cars. I tried to skip the wedding entirely, but Mom had insisted. "He's your only brother," she'd said on the phone 2 weeks ago. "I don't care about your complicated relationship. You'll be there and you'll be civil." Civil. That was one way to describe how Michael and I interacted. Hostile indifference might be more accurate. "Ladies and gentlemen," the wedding coordinator's voice echoed through the speakers. "Please welcome the best man, Jonathan Chin, brother of the groom." I made my way through the tables, feeling eyes tracking my movements. I heard whispers as I passed, the same whispers that had followed me for the past 6 years. "That's the other brother. The unsuccessful one. I heard he's almost 40 and still lives with roommates. Such a shame. Michael turned out so well." I reached the microphone and looked out at the sea of faces. Michael's colleagues from his investment banking firm. Christina's family, all old money and older traditions. Our parents' friends from their country club. Everyone who mattered in their world. Everyone who had spent years watching me fail. "Thank you all for being here," I began, keeping my voice steady. "I'm Jonathan, Michael's younger brother. I'm supposed to tell you heartwarming stories about growing up together, about what a great guy Michael is, about how perfect he and Christina are together." I paused, taking a breath. "And I will. Because despite our differences, despite the very different paths our lives have taken, Michael is my brother. And today is his day." I launched into safe territory, childhood stories carefully selected to be amusing without being embarrassing, compliments about Christina that were genuine enough to land well, wishes for their future happiness that I mostly meant. The speech lasted 7 minutes. I got polite applause. Michael's smile was tight as I handed him the microphone for his own speech. "Thank you, John," he said, his voice warm in that practiced way of his. "My little brother, everyone. John's had an interesting journey. Not everyone takes the traditional path, and we should celebrate that. Even when the path leads to a garage startup that's been about to break through for 6 years now." Uncomfortable laughter rippled through the crowd. "I'm kidding, of course," Michael continued, though his eyes said otherwise. "John's persistence is admirable. Most people would have given up and gotten a real job by now. But not John. He's still out there, chasing the dream, living on ramen and hope." More laughter, less uncomfortable now. In all seriousness, Michael's tone shifted to something that might have been compassion if you didn't know him well. "I admire my brother's dedication to his vision, even if it hasn't panned out the way he hoped. Not everyone can be successful in business. Some of us are dreamers and some of us are doers. The world needs both." I felt my face grow warm but kept my expression neutral. This was Michael's specialty. The subtle cut dressed up as a compliment, the public humiliation disguised as brotherly affection. He continued his speech, talking about his own journey from Harvard MBA to his current position as managing director at Goldman Sachs. He thanked Christina's father for trusting him with his precious daughter, mentioned the honeymoon in Bali, first class naturally, and outlined their plans to buy a home in Westchester within the year. When he finished, the applause was thunderous. Michael was good at speeches. He was good at most things. That was part of the problem. Dinner was served, filet mignon and Chilean sea bass with wine pairings for each course. I sat at a table with various cousins and family friends, most of whom I hadn't seen in years. "So Jonathan," Aunt Carol leaned across the table, her diamonds catching the light. "Michael mentioned you're still doing the startup thing. How's that going?" "It's going well," I said simply. "Well, but not successfully well?" He tried to make it sound gentle. "I mean, you're still living with roommates, aren't you?" "I have roommates, yes. At 37. She said it like a diagnosis. "Honey, have you considered that maybe it's time to try something else? My friend's son is a recruiter. He places people in tech companies all the time. Real tech companies with salaries and benefits. I could put you in touch." "That's kind of you, but I'm committed to my current work." Uncle David joined the conversation. "John, I respect the hustle, I really do. But 6 years is a long time to go without results. What does this startup of yours actually do?" We develop quantum computing solutions for encrypted data processing, I said. Quantum computing. He nodded like he understood, though his eyes glazed over. That sounds complicated. Are you making any money? We've been focused on development rather than revenue. For 6 years. Cousin Rachel chimed in. She was a corporate lawyer, recently made partner. John, that's not sustainable. Even the most patient investors need to see returns eventually. We have investors who believe in the vision. How much have you raised? Uncle David asked bluntly. Enough to keep us operational. That's not an answer, he pressed. Come on, John. We're family. You can be honest with us. Are you even paying yourself a salary? I took a sip of water, the same way I'd learned to create space in conversations when I didn't want to answer questions. The business is funded adequately for our current needs. That means no, Rachel translated for the table. John, this is an intervention of sorts. We care about you. We don't want to see you waste your entire life on something that's clearly not working. It's working fine. Then why are you still living with roommates? Aunt Carol's voice rose slightly. Why are you wearing a suit that looks like you got it at Target? Why did you arrive in an Uber instead of your own car? I sold my car. I didn't need it. The table went quiet. Even they could hear how bad that sounded. Oh, honey, Aunt Carol said, genuine pity in her voice now. You sold your car. That's really concerning. I work from home. Public transportation is efficient in the city. It was an unnecessary expense. Or you needed the money, Uncle David said flatly. John, this has gone on long enough. I'm going to be direct because someone needs to be. You're not 25 anymore. You're not even 35. You're pushing 40 and you have nothing to show for it. No house, no car, no wife, no kids. You're living like a college student because you're too proud to admit that your startup failed. It hasn't failed. Then what would you call it? Rachel challenged. What metric of success can you point to after 6 years of work? I could feel eyes from other tables turning toward us. The conversation was getting heated enough to draw attention. Look at your brother, Aunt Carol said, gesturing toward the head table where Michael and Christina were cutting their cake. Look at what real success looks like. He's 39, just a year older than you. He has a corner office, a beautiful wife, a bright future. That's what happens when you make smart choices. Different choices, I corrected quietly. Smart choices, she insisted. Practical choices. Adult choices. John, I love you, but someone needs to tell you the truth. This startup dream is over. It's time to grow up and join the real world. Before I could respond, Michael's voice boomed through the speakers again. Everyone, if I could have your attention for just one more moment. I want to do something special. The room quieted. A spotlight swung to illuminate our table, specifically to illuminate me. John, Michael said, his smile broad. Little brother. Could you come up here for a second? Every instinct told me this was a bad idea, but 300 pairs of eyes were watching. I stood and walked to the front, feeling like I was approaching a gallows. Michael put his arm around my shoulders, the gesture looking brotherly to everyone watching. His grip was tight enough to be controlling. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about my brother for a minute. John and I have taken very different paths in life. I went the traditional route, good school, good job, climbing the corporate ladder. John here, he's a dreamer. An entrepreneur. He's been working on his startup for. He paused, pretending to calculate. 6 years now. Almost 7. Time flies. Polite, awkward laughter. Now, I'll be honest, Michael continued, his voice taking on a tone of concerned brotherhood. It hasn't been easy watching John struggle. Watching him pour his life into something that hasn't panned out. As his older brother, I've wanted to help. I've offered him jobs, connections, opportunities to get back on track. But John's stubborn. He believes in his vision even when no one else does. The pity in the room was palpable now. I could feel it pressing down on me from all sides. So tonight on my wedding day, I want to do something for my little brother. Christina and I have discussed it, and we'd like to offer John a loan. Not a huge amount, but enough to help him get back on his feet. Help him find an apartment without roommates. Maybe buy a car. Start fresh. He looked at me, his eyes challenging me to refuse in front of everyone. We'll call it $25,000, he continued. No interest, no time pressure. Just family helping family. What do you say, John? The room waited. This was his moment of triumph. The successful brother publicly saving the failed one. The responsible sibling extending charity to the one who'd wasted his life. I looked at Michael, really looked at him. Saw the satisfaction in his eyes, the subtle smirk playing at his lips. This wasn't about helping me. This was about establishing once and for all who had won the unspoken competition between us. That's incredibly generous, I said carefully. But I'm going to have to decline. His smile faltered. John, don't be proud. We all need help sometimes. I appreciate the offer, but I don't need help. I'm doing fine. You sold your car, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. You're living with roommates at 37. You're clearly not fine. I have everything I need. Except success, he said, and now the mask was slipping. Except a real career, a real income, a real life. John, just admit it. Admit that your startup failed, take the help and move on. The startup hasn't failed. Then show me the success. His voice rose. Show me any evidence that you haven't wasted 6 years of your life playing entrepreneur in your garage. Show me the money, the users, the growth, anything that proves this isn't just a fantasy you've been living in. The room was dead silent now. Even the band had stopped playing. I was about to respond when I noticed something. Several guests had pulled out their phones, their faces showing confusion, then shock. A low murmur started spreading through the crowd. "Oh my God," someone said loudly. "Is this real?" More phones came out. The murmuring grew louder, more urgent. "Holy shit," I heard Uncle David say from my table. That can't be right." Aunt Carol stood up, staring at her phone. Jonathan Chin, is that you?" Michael's father-in-law was on his feet now too, his phone pressed to his ear. "I'm seeing the same thing. Multiple sources. CNN just broke it. Bloomberg's confirming. Reuters has it up now. What's going on?" Christina demanded, looking around at the chaos erupting in her carefully planned reception. Michael grabbed his own phone from the table. His face went white. The wedding coordinator was frantically checking her tablet. "Mr. Chin? Sir? CNN is calling. They're asking if Jonathan Chin is here. They want to know if they can come in." "What?" Michael's voice was barely a whisper. "Why would CNN want to come to my wedding?" "Because of the acquisition announcement," the coordinator said, bewildered. "The tech acquisition. It's breaking news. It's the lead story on every major outlet." Michael was scrolling through his phone now, his hands shaking. "John, your company. Quantum Secure Solutions. That's your company." "Yes," I said simply. "It just sold," he read from his screen, his voice hollow. "Quantum Secure Solutions acquired by Google in landmark deal valued at $8.7 billion. The largest tech acquisition in 5 years. Revolutionary quantum encryption technology that will reshape cloud computing security globally." The room erupted. "8 billion, someone shouted. "That's billion with a B? Google." "He sold to Google." Michael looked up from his phone, his face a mixture of shock and something else. Something that looked like grief. "You sold your company for $8.7 billion. Today. You sold it today during my wedding." "The deal closed at 4 p.m. Eastern," I confirmed. I would have preferred different timing, but the regulatory approvals came through faster than expected. I couldn't control the announcement schedule. Aunt Carol had pushed her way to the front of the crowd. "Jonathan, that article says you own 67% of the company. That means you personally made about $5.8 billion, I finished. "Before taxes." Uncle David was reading from his own phone. "There's a profile here. Forbes just posted it. It says Jonathan Chin, age 37, is now one of the youngest self-made billionaires in tech. It says he founded Quantum Secure in his garage 6 years ago with 3 MIT graduates. It says they developed breakthrough quantum computing applications that make current encryption methods obsolete." "The roommates," Rachel said faintly. "Your roommates were your co-founders. Dr. Sarah Martinez, Dr. James Park, and Dr. Angela Thompson," I confirmed. "We met at MIT. They're the smartest people I've ever known." More guests were crowding around now, all reading the same stories, all trying to process what was happening. "The Google deal includes continued employment for the founding team," someone read aloud. "Jonathan Chin will serve as VP of Quantum Computing Development with a salary of—" Jesus, That salary alone is more than most people make in a lifetime. Michael was still frozen, his phone hanging limply in his hand. You let me give that speech. You let me offer you $25,000. You let me call you a failed entrepreneur in front of 300 people. You didn't let me say much of anything, I pointed out. You could have stopped me. You could have told me. The deal was under NDA until the announcement went live. I legally couldn't tell anyone. The announcement was scheduled for 6 p.m. Pacific. We're on the East Coast, so 9 p.m. here. I thought I'd make it through dinner at least. Christina was on her phone now too, her perfect makeup starting to run as tears formed. There are news trucks outside. The venue coordinator says CNN, CNBC, Bloomberg, and 3 local stations are requesting access. They want to interview Jonathan. At my wedding, Michael said. This is my wedding. My day. And you're making it about you. I'm not making it about anything, I said calmly. I came to your wedding like Mom asked me to. I gave my speech. I sat quietly at my table. You're the one who called me up here and demanded I show you success. I didn't want this timing any more than you did. A man in a suit I didn't recognize pushed forward. Mr. Chin? I'm Bradley Morrison, partner at Goldman Sachs. I worked with your brother on the Silverman deal last year. I'd love to discuss potential investment opportunities if you're considering. Not now, Michael snapped at his colleague. Then to me, you sold your car because you didn't need it? Or because you were about to be a billionaire and material possessions didn't matter anymore? Both, I suppose. The articles mention your lifestyle, Cousin Rachel said, still reading. It says you continued to live modestly throughout the company's development to avoid distractions and maintain focus. It quotes you saying wealth is a byproduct, not a goal. That's from an interview you did with TechCrunch last month. They interviewed me as part of the acquisition due diligence process. More phones were ringing now. Uncle David answered his, listened for a moment, then looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. That was my office. They want to know if I can introduce them to you. They're interested in discussing wealth management services for high net worth clients. High net worth, Aunt Carol repeated with a slightly hysterical laugh. He's worth almost $6 billion. That's not high net worth, that's... I don't even know what that is. The wedding coordinator approached again, more frantic now. Mr. Chin, Jonathan Chin, the press is getting aggressive. They're asking if they can set up outside. CNN is offering to pay for exclusive access. What should I tell them? I looked at Michael and Christina. This was their day, their moment. And I just inadvertently destroyed it. Tell them I'll give a statement in 30 minutes, I said. Outside. Not in the venue. And make it clear that today is about Michael and Christina's wedding. The business news is secondary. Secondary, Michael repeated numbly. You just became a billionaire and it's secondary. To your wedding? Yes. You're my brother, Michael. That matters more than money. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Money. You say that like it's trivial. Like $5.8 billion is just pocket change. It's a number, I said. It doesn't change who I am. It changes everything. His voice cracked. Everything I've worked for, everything I've accomplished. I made managing director at Goldman. Do you know how hard that is? How many people compete for those positions? I make almost $2 million a year. I thought I'd made it. I thought I was successful. You are successful. I make in a year what you made in 3 seconds when that deal closed. The math seemed to hit him as he said it. 3.7 seconds. Every second the clock ticked from 4 o'clock p.m. to 4 o'clock and 3 seconds p.m., you made more than my annual salary. The room had gone quiet again, everyone watching this confrontation play out. That's not a fair comparison, I said. None of this is fair. Michael's composure was completely gone now. I did everything right. I went to Harvard. I worked 100-hour weeks. I networked, I sacrificed, I climbed the ladder. And you just built something in your garage and became a billionaire. It wasn't just anything. We worked 18-hour days for 6 years. We lived on nothing. We almost failed 3 times. The breakthrough that made this possible came at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday after Sarah had been working for 31 hours straight. There's no just about any of it. Christina was crying openly now. Our wedding. Everyone's going to remember our wedding as the day Jonathan became a billionaire. Not as our special day. Not as the day we got married. This. She wasn't wrong. I could already see guests recording videos, taking pictures, posting on social media. The hashtag billionaire wedding was probably already trending. My phone vibrated. Then again. And again. I pulled it out to see hundreds of notifications. Messages from my team, from our lawyers, from Google executives, from journalists, from people I hadn't spoken to in decades. And one text from Sarah. Holy shit, the timing. Are you okay? Do you need extraction? I typed back. At brother's wedding. Long story. Call you in an hour. Her response was immediate. We're all watching it unfold on Twitter. The memes are already incredible. Hang in there. Jonathan Chin? A woman's voice came from behind me. I turned to see a journalist who must have talked her way past security. I'm Jessica Park from Bloomberg News. Can you comment on the acquisition? What does this mean for the future of quantum computing? Not now, I said firmly. This is a private event. The public has a right to know. The public can wait an hour. Please leave. Security was already moving toward her, but the damage was done. More reporters would try the same thing. The venue was about to become a circus. Michael, I said, turning back to my brother. Christina. I'm going to leave. I'll give my statement outside, draw the press away, let you salvage what's left of your reception. I'm sorry about the timing. I truly am. Sorry, Michael repeated. You're sorry. You just humiliated me in front of everyone I know, everyone who matters in my career, and you're sorry. I didn't humiliate you. I didn't do anything to you. You exist. He shouted it, his face red. You exist, and you're better than me at everything that actually matters. I spent my whole life trying to beat you, trying to be the successful one, and you just... He couldn't finish. Christina put a hand on his arm, but he shook it off. Do you know what this is going to be like for me? He continued. Going into work on Monday? Everyone knowing that my failed entrepreneur brother sold his company for almost $9 billion? Everyone remembering that I called him a dropout at my wedding? That I offered him a loan of $25,000. That speech is already viral, someone called out unhelpfully. 3 million views on TikTok. Michael's face went from red to pale. No, tell me that's not true. Multiple videos from different angles, Uncle David confirmed, looking at his phone. The one with the best audio is trending #1 worldwide. The comments are, well, they're not kind to you, Michael. I watched my brother process this. Watched him realize that his moment of triumph, his wedding day, his speech establishing himself as the successful sibling, had become the most public humiliation of his life. I should go, I said again. Wait. Mom's voice cut through the chaos. She'd been so quiet I'd almost forgotten she was there. She pushed through the crowd, Dad right behind her. Jonathan, she said, and her voice was shaking. Is this real? All of this? Yes, Mom. You've been a billionaire and waiting for how long? We knew the deal was likely about 6 months ago. We knew it was definite about 3 months ago. The exact valuation was confirmed 2 weeks ago. And you didn't tell us. I couldn't. NDAs. And honestly, I hesitated. Would you have believed me? The question hung in the air. Mom and Dad exchanged a glance. No, Dad admitted quietly. We wouldn't have. We would have thought you were delusional. Making up fantasies to make yourself feel better about failing. That's what we thought anyway, Mom added. Every time you talked about the company, about the technology, about the potential, we thought it was just wishful thinking. We thought you were lying to yourself. I know. You know. Michael turned on them. You all knew about this? About his company? We knew he was working on something, Mom said. He tried to tell us about it at Christmas, at Easter, at every family gathering. We just didn't listen. We didn't believe it could be real. Aunt Carol spoke up, her voice small. I told you to apply to work at Target. 2 hours ago, I told a man who's now worth $6 billion to apply for a retail management position. The absurdity of it seemed to break through the tension. Someone laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. Then someone else. Within seconds the whole room was laughing, a release of nervous energy and shock. Everyone except Michael. This is my wedding, he said again, but quieter now. This was supposed to be my day. The best day of my life. And all anyone's going to remember is that my brother became a billionaire in the middle of it. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. I wish the timing had been different. Do you? He looked at me, really looked at me. Do you really wish that? Or is some part of you glad that you got to prove us all wrong? That you got to show up to my perfect day and reveal that you were better all along? I thought about it. Gave him the honesty he deserved. I'm not glad about any of this. But am I glad that you finally have to see me as something other than a failure? Yes. I'm glad about that. He nodded slowly. At least you're honest. The wedding coordinator was back, more desperate now. Mr. Chen, the press is threatening to disrupt the entire reception if they don't get access. They're offering substantial sums. One outlet is suggesting $50,000 for 15 minutes of exclusive access. Tell them, Michael started, but I cut him off. Tell them yes. To whatever outlet offers the most. But the money goes to Michael and Christina. Consider it a wedding gift. John, you don't have to, Mom began. I do actually. This is the least I can do. Michael's right. I've ruined his wedding. So the wedding gets something out of it. CNN is offering $200,000 for 30 minutes, the coordinator said after a rapid series of phone calls. And they want to interview both brothers. Together. Michael and I looked at each other. You don't have to do this, I said. If I don't, I'm the bitter brother who couldn't handle his siblings' success. If I do, at least I control some of the narrative. He straightened his tie and I saw him slip back into his professional persona. Let's get this over with. We were ushered outside where CNN had set up a full production in the venue's parking lot. Lights, cameras, a correspondent I recognized from the nightly news. Behind us, I could see the wedding guests pressed against the windows, watching. We're live in 3, someone called out. 2, 1. The correspondent smiled professionally. We're here with Jonathan Chin, whose company Quantum Secure Solutions was just acquired by Google for $8.7 billion in what experts are calling the most significant advancement in computing security in decades. Mr. Chin, you're now worth approximately $5.8 billion. How does that feel? Surreal, I said honestly. But I want to emphasize that this success belongs to my entire team. Dr. Martinez, Dr. Park, and Dr. Thompson worked as hard as I did, if not harder. This isn't about one person. And this is your brother Michael Chin, correct? Michael, what was your reaction when you heard the news? Michael's smile was perfect, practiced. Shock certainly. Pride in my brother's achievement. John's always been brilliant. We all knew he was working on something special. The lie was smooth, professional. No one watching would know that 30 minutes ago he'd been offering me a pity loan. There are reports, the correspondent continued, that the announcement happened during your wedding reception. That must have been quite a surprise. It certainly wasn't the wedding gift we expected, Michael joked and got a laugh. But in all seriousness, I'm thrilled for my brother. Family success is success for all of us. The interview continued for 20 minutes. Michael was polished, saying all the right things, playing the supportive older brother perfectly. I answered questions about the technology, the future applications, what I planned to do with the money. When it ended and the cameras stopped rolling, Michael's smile dropped immediately. 200,000, he said flatly. You just made our wedding night into a news segment for $200,000. You would have done it for free, I said. At least this way you get something. I don't want your charity. It's not charity. It's CNN's money. Take it, don't take it. I don't care. We stood there in the parking lot, the sounds of the reception drifting out through the open doors. Inside, guests were dancing again, the party trying to resume some semblance of normalcy. You could have told me, Michael said finally. At some point in the last 6 years, you could have told me you were actually succeeding. Would you have listened? He considered it. Probably not. No, definitely not. I needed you to be the failure. It made me feel better about my own success. I know. You're supposed to argue with me. Tell me I'm wrong. But you're not wrong. You needed me to fail so you could feel successful. Mom and Dad needed it too. The whole family needed it. I was the cautionary tale, the example of what happens when you don't play by the rules. And now you need me to be something else. I just don't know what yet. Michael laughed bitterly. Neither do I. How do I go back in there? Face all those people? They all saw me humiliate myself. The same way I faced them for 6 years while they pitted me. You smile, you keep your dignity, and you remember that their opinions don't actually matter. Easy for you to say. You're a billionaire now. I was the same person an hour ago when you were offering me charity. The money doesn't change who I am. It changes everything else though, doesn't it? He looked back at the venue. Christina's in there crying. My wedding day is ruined. And tomorrow, every paper is going to run the story of how I mocked my billionaire brother at my own reception. Or, I suggested, the story could be about how you supported your brother's success even when it unexpectedly overshadowed your big day. Depends on what narrative you want to build. He studied me for a long moment. When did you get so wise? Around the same time I was living on ramen and hope, apparently. They got a small smile. I really am an asshole, aren't I? Tonight you were. In general, you're complicated. We both are. What am I supposed to do now? How am I supposed to compete with this? You don't, I said simply. You stop competing. You live your life, I live mine. We're brothers, not rivals. We never should have been rivals. Dad made us rivals. The comparisons, the expectations, the constant competition for approval. I know. But we're adults now. We can choose something different. Michael nodded slowly. I should get back to my wife. Try to salvage what's left of our wedding. For what it's worth, I think Christina looks beautiful. And the venue is gorgeous. You did well. Thanks. He started to walk away, then stopped. John, I'm sorry. For the speech, for everything. I was cruel. You were human. We all are. I watched him go back inside, his posture straightening as he approached the doors, slipping back into the role of the happy groom. My phone buzzed again. Sarah calling. Hey, I answered. You okay? Her voice was warm with concern. Define okay. Fair point. The internet is losing its mind. We're trending #1 on literally every platform. Angela set up a group chat for the 4 of us. We're all being bombarded with interview requests. We should coordinate responses through the Google PR team. They'll want to control the narrative. Already on it. But John, are you okay? That speech your brother gave, that was brutal. He was honest. In its own way. It was cruel. That too. I could hear voices in the background. James and Angela probably watching the coverage. My team. My friends. The people who'd believed in the vision when no one else did. We did it, Sarah said softly. We actually did it. We did. So why don't you sound happier? I looked back at the venue, at the celebration continuing without me, at the family that had spent years misunderstanding me. Because success is complicated, I said. And family is even more complicated. You want us to come get you? We could grab drinks, celebrate properly. No. I should probably go back in for a bit. Make sure Michael's okay. You're a better person than I'd be in your situation. I'm really not. I'm just tired of fighting. We talked for a few more minutes, making plans for next week's meetings with Google, discussing the press strategy, laughing about the absurdity of the timing. When I hung up, I stood in the parking lot for another moment, watching the party through the windows. Uncle David was talking animatedly to a group, probably telling them how he'd always known I'd be successful. Aunt Carol was showing people something on her phone, likely the news coverage claiming some sort of credit for my upbringing. Mom and Dad sat at their table looking shell-shocked and small. And Michael was dancing with Christina, holding her close, trying to create a moment of normalcy in the chaos. I could leave. Call an Uber, go home to my apartment. The one I'd be moving out of soon because the world now knew I was worth billions and I'd need actual security. I could let them celebrate without me, let Michael have what remained of his night. But that felt like running away. I walked back inside. Heads turned, conversations stopped. Then Aunt Carol was rushing over, Uncle David right behind her, both of them suddenly my best friends, suddenly so proud, suddenly claiming they'd always believed in me. Jonathan. Aunt Carol gushed. I've been telling everyone about how we knew you were special even as a child. That brilliant mind of yours. You told me to apply at Target 2 hours ago, I reminded her gently. She had the grace to look embarrassed. I was just worried about you, honey. We all were. Were you? I looked around at the family members converging on me. Or were you uncomfortable with someone choosing a different path? We just wanted what was best for you, Uncle David said. You wanted what looked successful to you. There's a difference. I felt a hand on my shoulder. John, can we talk? Outside. We walked out to the venue's garden, away from the noise and the cameras and the sudden flood of attention. I'm sorry, she said immediately. Not for tonight, for everything. For years of not listening, not believing, not supporting you the way I should have. You supported me how you knew how. That's generous, but it's not true. I dismissed you. I compared you to Michael constantly. I made you feel like a failure because you weren't successful in ways I understood. She took a shaky breath. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm incredibly proud of you. Thanks, Mom. And I'm sorry it took billions of dollars for me to finally see what was there all along. We stood together in the garden, the party continuing without us. After a while, Dad joined us, then Michael and Christina. One by one, the family filtered out until we were all there together, away from the chaos. I propose a toast, Michael said, raising his champagne glass. To John. To seeing people for who they really are, not who we need them to be. And to second chances for families who screw up. I'll drink to that, I said. We toasted, and for the first time in 6 years, maybe for the first time ever, I felt like we might actually be a family instead of a collection of people bound by biology and competition. Inside, I could hear the DJ starting up again. Michael and Christina went back to their first dance, this time without the weight of comparison hanging over it. And I stood with my parents in the garden, watching through the windows, no longer the family failure or the surprise billionaire. Just their son. Finally,